We have got to get past this endless, unforgiving, zero-tolerance mindset bent on punishing and disappearing anyone caught saying the wrong thing. The right response to speech you don't like is more speech.
Well, if he's right, then why didn't people vote for the former prosecutor who actually had policy plans to help the working class?
Stop saying that Whoopi Goldberg getting yanked from The View right after she attacked me on The View is karma. There's no such thing as karma, sorry. But life is random. The only word to describe it when a big game hunter gets trampled by an elephant and then eaten by lions is hilarious.
These days, politics is more about identity, ideology, and power battles than it is about policies, which makes every discussion a battlefield. And few rival Whoopi Goldberg and Bill Maher's fireworks when it comes to conflicting personalities. These two media behemoths, who are both vocal about their opinions, recently got into a contentious spat that revealed the profound rifts in the contemporary political system.
I think he changed his mind because he got sick of watching everybody else get over.
Black people can't afford to indulge rich white people's need to endlessly flagellate themselves. They just want prices to go down and good jobs and the police when you call them.
Maher isn't a Republican, so this wasn't just another exchange between liberals and conservatives. He's actually been a Democrat all his life. But in the current environment, one only needs to challenge progressive narratives to be labeled an adversary. When he questioned Whoopi Goldberg about crime, economic failures, and media hypocrisy, that is precisely what transpired. In the shocking moment that ensued, Whoopi was clearly unable to respond to Maher's scathing accusations. What precisely transpired then? Why did this argument get so heated? What does it tell us about the changing political landscape in the United States? Let's dissect everything. Whoopi Goldberg and Bill Maher ought to be on the same side on paper. Both have established themselves as liberal voices who support progressive causes and oppose conservative viewpoints. However, Maher has emerged as one of the most vocal opponents of the so-called woke left in recent years.
Down statues of Lincoln and get rid of the police. Just, no, it's not that I've gotten old, it's that your ideas are stupid.
A phrase he employs to define the increasing intolerance and inconsistencies in contemporary progressivism. Conversely, Whoopi is still firmly rooted in the dominant Democratic narrative and frequently brushes off criticism of the left as exaggerated right-wing propaganda. This basic disparity created the conditions for a violent confrontation. 2. Of the most important topics for regular Americans, crime and inflation, were discussed at the beginning of the debate.
So I'm just going to follow the straight and narrow always, because that's what's expected of Democrats.
Above any matters of politics or what's right or wrong, the one thing I know for sure about America is this. It's run by mean girls. Mean girls in the press and in politics and in life. And when they smell blood in the water, the lust to finish off a vulnerable person will never be denied.
Like many progressive commentators, Whoopi discounted the seriousness of these issues, claiming that the right-wing media had exaggerated them to incite needless fear. Maher, however, didn't believe it. Maher quickly pierced through the political jargon. He cited concrete statistics, such as rising major city crime rates, soaring inflation that is putting pressure on middle-class families, and polls that indicate voters, even those from minority areas, are becoming increasingly disenchanted with the Democratic Party's response to these challenges.
Democrats run for office as if the voters don't live here, as if they don't go to the grocery store and Starbucks and the office. But they do. But a poll last year asked, if America is the greatest country in the world, more blacks and Hispanic Americans agreed with that than the white progressives. If racism is built into our society, white progressives agreed with that at higher levels than black and Hispanic people. It asked if government should increase border security. Same result. Hispanic Americans are less okay with illegal immigration than whitey. And black people can't afford to indulge rich white people's need to endlessly flagellate themselves. They just want prices to go down and good jobs and the police when you call them. Black people, they're just like us.
People cannot be told not to trust their own eyes. Maher was direct. You cannot fool someone into believing that everything is all right when they see their shopping bill rise and feel unsafe going at night. Visibly agitated, Whoopi tried to divert the discussion from details by claiming that economic hardships occur under any regime and that criminality has always occurred.
I watch your show all the time, so I know that you're a comic, but you basically go after Trump and Biden, both of them. And a lot of people are not happy with you about that.
Not equally.
Well, not equally, because you know that Trump is more dangerous.
Of course. I mean, I don't think anybody was more out front on that danger than I was. There's people who really like him. They certainly are those. And then there's people who don't necessarily like him that much, but they still think he's less crazy than stuff that strikes them as aggressively anti-common sense.
Maher, however, didn't stop. He drew attention to the ways that progressive politicians in places like New York and San Francisco have adopted policies that have made matters worse rather than better, including as liberal sentencing guidelines, open-air drug markets masquerading as humanitarian measures, and defunding the police. There was no denying the tension in the room now. Maher was breaking down the ideological bubble that progressive elites frequently operate in, even though he wasn't specifically criticizing Whoopi. The subject that caused the debate to completely collapse then came up: Biden, Hunter. Maher emphasized the obvious double standard in the media's coverage of political crises while bringing up the continuing situation involving President Biden's son. Every major network would be completely covered if this were Eric Trump or Don Jr. We're expected to act as like, it doesn't matter though, since it's Hunter. Whoopi brushed the subject aside right away, claiming it was a diversion. However, Maher was not discussing Hunter's private problems. He was discussing the government's and the media's integrity. The Hunter Biden laptop narrative was vigorously suppressed by social media sites and rejected by intelligence agencies as Russian disinformation just prior to the 2020 election, he reminded Whoopi and the audience, only to have those same officials eventually acknowledge its veracity. This is a fact, not a conspiracy idea. And regardless of your political stance, everyone should be alarmed by the media's burying of this information to support one party, Maher said. Evidently unable to respond, Whoopi used the standard defense, accusing it of being a Republican preoccupation. However, Maher noted that even Democratic reporters, such as Glenn Greenwald and Matt Taibbi, acknowledged that the media's coverage of the Hunter Biden story was dishonest. This was a turning point in the argument because it brought to light a widening gap between those who are willing to challenge their own position and others who naively support it, rather than between left and right. Maher's discussion of the larger problem that progressivism has become disconnected from reality was the last straw. He emphasized that the left has traditionally stood up for free speech, supported the working class, and opposed corporate power abuses. Today, however, it has changed into a movement that is fixated on identity politics, purity tests, and stifling criticism. Take a look at the electorate. Check out the polls. The Democratic Party is losing working-class supporters, particularly Black and Hispanic voters. Why? Because they are more concerned with schools, jobs, and crime than they are with virtue, signaling, and language regulation. In a desperate attempt to recover power, Whoopi attempted to claim that WOC is simply about being conscious of societal inequalities.
Appropriate to bury the Hunter Biden.
You're talking about the press doing that?
He's saying that's what they did, and that is what they did. They buried the Hunter Biden story before the election because they were like, we can't risk having the election thrown to Trump. We'll tell them after the election.
And we know for a fact that that's what they did?
Of course. You don't
but
follow
I'm
this.
saying you know for a fact that that's what they did. I don't know what they did.
I know, because you only watch MSNBC.
No, that's not.
Maher, however, would not have it. He shot back, "No, Whoopi! It has to do with dogma. It's about making individuals adhere to a worldview that penalizes those who hold opposing views. People are rejecting it because of this." Right now, the debate was about the Democratic Party's future rather than merely Maher versus Whoopi. One thing was evident at the conclusion of the debate. Bill Maher had revealed everything. He exposed the ways in which the left has grown mired in its own contradictions, unwilling to confront its own narratives or admit its shortcomings. He demonstrated how, despite the fact that actual people are suffering, progressive elites frequently brush off problems impacting regular Americans as right-wing rhetoric. Most significantly, he demonstrated that an ideology that favors complete allegiance over frank discussion is driving away a large number of traditional liberals, including himself. Thus, it is still unclear if the left has gone too far. If so, will Maher's and other voices be sufficient to stop it before it's too late? Please share your opinions in the comments section. Does Bill Maher have the right to point out the inconsistencies in the contemporary left? Or do you believe Whoopi had good reason to stand her ground? This argument is far from ended, regardless of your point of view. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more hard-hitting breakdowns of the biggest political clashes happening today. See you in the next video.